generosity of spirit. Ma'am DeLang continues to live on in the memories, lives, and hearts of all who knew. We begin this afternoon's program with a hymn sung by Ma'am Alicia.
Bring to mind the memories of Jeanne, DeLang, her presence, her words, her kindness, and the many ways she touched lives within the Loreto College family and beyond. In the stillness of this moment, we remember that every human life is a gift. Some lips leave behind footprints so gentle yet so deep that they continue to guide us long after the person is gone. Jeanne's life was one such blessing. Through simple acts of care, dedication, friendship, and love, she became part of the story of so many people gathered here today. As we sit in gratitude and remembrance of Jeanne, let us also become aware of God's loving presence among us. A presence that comforts us in grief, strengthens us in loss, and reminds us that love never truly ends. Dear Lord, we gather this day, hearts filled with gratitude and remembrance as we come together to honor the life and memory of Jeanne DeLang. We thank you for the gift she was to so many of us, for her kindness, wisdom, generosity, and quiet strength with which she touched so many lives. In this moment of prayerful remembrance, we entrust her soul into your loving and eternal care. Grant her the peace and joy of your heavenly kingdom, where sorrow and pain are no more, and where the light shines forever. Lord, comfort all who mourn her loss, her family, friends, colleagues, students, and all whose lives were enriched by your presence. May the memories they cherish continue to inspire them with hope, compassion, and courage. As members of Loreto College family, help us to carry forward the values of Jeanne DeLang lived by love, service, faith, and dedication to others. May her life remind us that every act of goodness leaves a lasting imprint on the world. We pray that this memorial gathering may become not only a time of sorrow, but also a celebration of the life beautifully lived and lovingly shared. May her soul and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you, sister. We will now commence readings. I will invite each of the Ma'am Catholics.
A reading from 2nd Book of Timothy, chapter 4, verse 7 and 8. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, righteous judge, will give to me on that day. And not to me only, but also to all who have loved his name.
In any society, the issue of bidding farewell to the departed always involves the question of aging. As practitioner of Indian Buddhism, Vaishnavas Buddhism believe in the eternity of life and that the law of casualty permeates birth and death. The moment of death represents a truly important transition. In the Osho, heritage of the unlimited law of life, the Daishonin states, "We resolve to summon for the great power of your faith and chant Namyo Horengekyo with the prayer that your faith will be steadfast and correct Never seek any other way to inherit the ultimate law and manifest it in your life. Only then you will realize that earthly desires, our enlightenment, and the sufferings of life and death are real. Now I chant Namyo Renge. If anyone of you is a practitioner, they chant with me. Namyo Renge Kyo. Namyo Renge Kyo. Namyo Renge Kyo. Dr. Shubhasri.
Reading from Munda Upanishad, section 3, chapter 2, verse 8. Yatha natyasyandamana samudre astam gachanti namarupe vihaya tatha vidvan namarupad vimukta parat param purusham apayati divyam. As rivers in their flowing reach their home in the ocean and cast off their names and forms, even so one who knows is delivered from name and form and reaches the Supreme beyond the Most High, the Divine Person. Just as flowing streams such as the Ganges and the rest, having reached the sea, give up their distinct individuality in it, losing both their names and form, so the knower, being freed from name and form, created by ignorance, reaches the Divine Person who is beyond description.
Ma'am Hiti Hanuka, Ma'am Fatima Moise,
Readings from the Holy Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qalu inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Indeed, to Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. Rabbik firli wa tub alayya, innaka anta tawwabur rahim. O Allah, forgive me and accept my repentance. Truly, you are the oft-forgiving, the most merciful. قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين. Say indeed my prayer, my rites of sacrifice, my living and my dying are for Allah, Lord of the worlds. For Jeanne ma'am, forever loved, never forgotten. A life well lived, a love well shared. Your memory lives on in us, born from our sight, never from our hearts.
Ma'am Namaste.
The following is a reading from our Zoroastrian scriptures, which is in the Avastan language, for the advancement of the soul of dear Jeanne to higher realms. Fulkihatar Ravan Oe Anushe Ke Asal Geti Sisaman, Veshtar Kapur Karan, Anyay Minoan, Akhan Ashe Aikatare Fakahat, Oe Anushe Ravan Veshta Jaigar, Parhat Or Karokana, but Shahen Bar. Ravan Karot Mani Bar. Ravan Karot Mani Bar. Ravan Karot Mani Bar. These three words mean may the soul rise to higher realms. Ravan Karot Mani Bar. I will now recite two basic prayers that we've all been taught to children are taught from the age of 2. Short prayers. Ashem Bahu, Varistem Asti, Usta Asti, Usta Ammai, Yadashai, Varistai Ashem. Yatha Ahu Vairyo, Athar Tush, Ashadachi, Achava Vyosh, Dazda Manugo, Shorte Nanam, Amyosh Mastai, Shatrin Chai, Amurai, Ayin, Daregogyo, Danad Vastarin. We pray for the soul of Jeanne, who has left us for the spiritual work, and may soon attain Garotima, the highest heavens.
Ma'am Sharma.
एको काज सतनाम करता पूरक निर्भव निर्भय अकाल पूरक कजूरी सहगन दुर्प्रसाद 4 आज सच जुगाड़ सच गहरी सच नाना कोसी की सच सोचे सोचना होगे जे सोचे लग बार चुप्पे चुप ना होगे जे राय रहा नहीं भूखिया भूख ना उठे जब बलना पुनिया पार साहस यात्रा लग होगे ना एक ना चलिए किर सचियारा होवे कि पूरे टूटे पार हुकुम रजाई चलना नानक इंडिया में. There is only one God who created everything. He is eternal, truthful, fearless, without hatred, beyond world and death, and present everywhere. He does not take any human form and is self-existent. He can be understood through his grace and guidance.
Mangala Gauri Chakraborty.
I'm not going to read a few lines from Sri Adi Shankaracharya's Bhagavad Gita. These are about, the way good life should be lived. That's what I'm talking about. Shatro mitre putre bandhav makuyatam vigrah sandhav sarvasmin napi pashat manam sarvatrosricha bheda jnanam. Do not waste your efforts to win the love of or to fight against friend and foe, children and relatives. See the true self in everyone and give up all feelings of duality completely. Satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivanmukti. Being in the company of good people gives rise to non-attachment. From non-attachment comes freedom from tension, which leads to awareness of reality. Understanding of reality gives rise to emancipation, leading to the liberation of the soul while still alive.
Dr. Sukanya Dasmurthy.
Beauty of the Indian ground. I passed a mountain peak, and my soul is soaring in the firmament of complete and unbound freedom. I am far, far away from the companions, and the clouds are hiding the hills from my eyes. The valleys are becoming
flooded in an ocean of silence, and the hands of oblivion are involved the roads and the houses. The prairies and the fields are disappearing behind a white spectre that looks like a spring cloud, yellow as candlelight, red as twilight. The songs of the waves and hymns of the streams are scattered, and the voices of the throngs reduce to silence. And I can hear note of the spirit of eternity, in exact harmony with the spirit's desires. I am clothed in full darkness. I am in comfort. I am in peace.
I invite Dr. Shami Posania for the rendering of
share the PowerPoint presentation. Jeanne.
My name is Jeanne. I was a lecturer at Loreto College from 1988 to 1999. And I never thought I'd be speaking on an occasion like this. It's with great sadness that I speak to mourn Jeanne's passing. Jeanne was a dearly beloved member of staff at Loreto College. There are many people who vouch for that, and it's wonderful. I remember when I started teaching, I was being on this very young lecturer. I started teaching at Loreto College at the age of 25. And it was unsettling, I was insecure. It was a new place, as we had been before, and everyone was starting out fresh. And I remember in this sea of insecurity, Jeanne was an oasis, a voice of calm, reassurance, patience, gentleness. I never forget her gentleness and her kindness. All we had to do was enter the secretariat, the office leading to Sister's office, to the principal's office. There are doorkeepers, there are secretaries and doorkeepers. You could never call Jeanne a doorkeeper. She was just so lovely. She always had a kind word for everyone, and immense patience. And no matter what you asked her, she was always willing to be ready to help. I had several people as nice and as gentle, as lovely as Jeanne was. And even though it's been many years since I left Loreto College, and my life has been very good connections, I still remember her smiling face, anything I ever saw in using temper, using always patient, always smiling gently, always supportive. And had a great sense of humor. She appreciated humor. So you could always exchange a joke, have a laugh. It's very difficult. We all pass this time. And I have to say, ever since I left the country, I wasn't really in touch with Jeanne. Nonetheless, it feels very personal. Her passing feels very personal. I wish everybody, the family, all the best on deepest condolences. But our best wishes, because I think the only way we can remember Jeanne and all remember Jeanne is through these very fond memories. Such a loving person who made our lives, our working lives, so very pleasant and so nice. Thank you, Jeanne, for everything that you did for us. God bless you, and our peace for everyone.
I've been thinking of you ever since I heard the sad story of your passing. During the brief years of Loreto, Jeanne was such a noble friend in the Loreto College's office. She was always calm. She just exuded a sense of kindness. You could go to her and ask her questions. She had to say no to you, she said it in the nicest possible way. Often somebody knows that sister would not agree to this. But whatever it was, as I said, she said it kindly. She was the consumer professional. I wonder that it was this young woman, and she was young then, she was in the office immediately. She was the first line of contact with the boys. She was the first person to contact the information. And I remember she always had these large books open with important I don't know whether she actually did a concert on it, because it was kind of every dream, so to speak. So all the work done quietly, done well, while providing the services of harm for people who came in because they were agitated or something that would happen or something would happen. And one speech was moving in a way that we didn't even know how much she was doing for all of us. Again, my memories of her are really very pleasant. I sincerely hope that she is resting in peace in a better day.
We will now share our memories of Ma'am Jeanne. First, Dr. Sukanya Mitra will read a message from Sister Tina and the Sisters at the University.
Mrs. Jeanne DeLang, the Kolkata, known to all, even to the newest students in the college, simply as Jeanne, was a beloved presence in the Loreto College community for many years. Jeanne and her sister studied at Loreto House. Unlike Jeanne, her sisters Tony and Linda were outstanding basketball players. Jeanne married Alan DeLang, and theirs was a very happy marriage. Sadly, after only a few years together, Alan passed away following a serious illness. Jeanne never truly recovered from the sorrow of losing him. After completing her secretarial course, Jeanne returned to her second home at 7 Middleton Road in the office of Loreto College. That office had an extraordinary ambience, simple yet filled with a warmth that made everyone feel at home. It was Jeanne who created that atmosphere. Sisters, staff, visitors, students, parents, and even anxious young applicants arriving for admission were immediately put at ease in her presence. The sisters, Claire, Christopher, Lourdes, and all who came to the office remember Jeanne as gentle, always available, efficient, quietly firm, and a tremendous source of information. She truly was one in a million. Even the NAC teams somehow absorbed the easy, welcoming spirit of the college. Jeanne worked closely with me for 13 years and
and I have known no one quite like her for her confidentiality, loyalty to the college, and devotion to the principal. On a few occasions, I remember her quietly preparing me for difficult situations, and as principal, one faced many such moments. Yet, she remained the same caring and dependable helper to everyone. Gracious, never loud or showy, the support she gave each person was remarkable. All the sisters, whether members of the college staff or not, always felt welcome in the office. Dear little Mother Catherine would quietly come for envelopes, and Jeanne would gently hand them over to her with kindness and care. When Jeanne retired, it marked a time of loss in many ways than one. She moved from her home to her flat in Park Circus. Tony passed away, and living alone became increasingly difficult as her health declined. During my time in MT, I visited her a few times. She was always happy to see me, though I could sense her depression and I often felt helpless. I phoned her from Ranchi, and she was glad to speak with Sister May and me. But later, when I called from the residence, I often received little or no response. Gradually, I too lost touch with her, as there was no reliable way to visit or contact her. Though 20 years have passed since Jeanne left the college, the memory of her continues to burn brightly in the hearts of all who knew her. Rest in peace, dear Jeanne.
Mrs. Sharmila Rekhuvam will read Ma'am Mamta Swaika's message and also share her own memories.
I will be reading on behalf of Mrs. Mamta Swaika, who is not only a student of the Loreto College, not only a student of Loreto College, but she was also the head of the department of the geography department of the college. My association with Jeanne goes back a long way to when I was still a teenager. In some way, I was a senior to her in Loreto College as she became secretary to Mother to Lord when I was still a third-year student. I vividly remember my first interaction with her as it was hysterical. There was another girl from my school who also joined when I did. Her name was Geeta Kapoor, and I was Mamta Swaika. Mamta Satsang. Jeanne would always mix up and call me Geeta Kapoor as she decided that the name suited me more than Mamta Satsang, which she thought sounded strange and unsuitable for my personality. So when I married and became Mamta Swaika, she was very happy. She said that it sounded much better. When I came back to Loreto College as a lecturer, she was the first person I wished every morning as the attendance register we needed to sign was in her office. Her cheerful demeanor started each working day on a positive note. The association that started as a student continued over a quarter of a century, and I always appreciated her friendly and positive nature. My kids made sure to peep into her office for the sweets she kept for them. Above all, Jeanne was one of the most conscientious persons I have met in my life. Extremely responsible and going about her work quietly without any fanfare or expectation of praise. She was certainly a rare human being, much loved by all who knew her. Rest in peace, dear Jeanne. Now this is my little, I just have one, when I was a young lecturer joined, at that time this college depended on that one landline, one phone. And I remember this incident so clearly. She would do so many things in the office because she was basically the only person in the principal's office. So she had a number of things to do. And I remember one day in the afternoon when I was taking a class in the geography department, Jeanne very politely walks into the class and leaves a little note for me. And everybody knows her handwriting. It's whoever sees that handwriting can never forget Jeanne's handwriting. And there was this note that she slipped into my hand and she left. And it was saying that Sharmila, call home because there was a call from your house. So please, when the class is over, don't forget to call back. You know, this meant so much to me because this was so many things, so many teachers. And then she took that time off. She would answer each and every call that would come to the office. And she made sure that little note was handed over to me in class. She didn't ask anybody else. She came up from the office to the second floor and left that note. I still remember this. Like she had this quiet efficiency, and she, there are so many other things which others who have been, during her times will remember. But this stuck in my mind. Rest in peace, dear Jeanne.
Ma'am, Mandela Chakraborty will read a message from Ma'am Sujeta Mukherjee and also share her own memories.
Good afternoon. I begin to read you Sujeta's note. Sujeta Mukherjee was a member of the English department, and she was head too. And she knew Jeanne both as a student and as a group. So I read. Jeanne DeLang, née Furtado, was secretary to principal, Loreto College, and office head clerk. I was still a student when I first met her. The pre-assembly hum outside the library was loud. The door to the principal's room, which is now the library workroom, clicked open. A wisp of a girl, small in stature, calmly stepped out, walked to the head of the stairs, and purposefully rang a little bell to summon us to prayers. Jeanne's composure and dignity impressed us immediately. Ever accessible, kind but firm, she handled our demands, needs without compromising the confidentiality her position required. We took to her immediately. I came back to teach and grew to appreciate her quiet efficiency even more. Administrative hitches were smooth, unobtrusive. Never a raised voice or a letter wrongly filed. Her dedication to Loreto was total. It is impossible not to love or admire her. May she be happy with the angels. So that's Sujeta. And I too have my memories of Jeanne. When I joined Loreto College, my first point of contact was Jeanne. Well, back in 1987, the last millennium. And as she retired in 2006, we had about 20 years. And as many of the others have said, since she was in the office, she was the first person we met, she was the last person we saw because we had to sign out when we left, and she was always there. Now that picture of Jeanne, which was there, on the card announcing this occasion, that's so typical of her. I can't think of Jeanne without the dark paneling behind her, without the table in front of her, a simple table to cross to the other side very easily. And she was a total one-man show. If we had question papers, the teachers would just write them and give them to her to print, to type out. And if sister had any letter to write, she would just tell Jeanne to write that letter, and she would have it written and typed out every day. It's amazing when you think of all the different jobs that are associated with that position, the number of people that are required today. Life was simpler then, but it still had a lot of work that she did it.
So the thing about Jeanne was that she was a very private person. So today, before coming here, I talked to her very close colleague, Dorothy Das. And Dorothy said, yeah, she didn't share anything about her personal life with you people. But we knew what was going on in her life. Her hours of work were from the morning till about 12. And when she was at work, she was absolutely, concentrating on her work here. But once it was done, she was off because she had an equally important thing to do. She was very concerned with her family, with her brother and sister. And once she went back there, her attention was entirely on them. Now I think about it, so many years after, I think Jeanne had really mastered the work-home balance better than most of us manage to do in our lifetimes. And anyways, to get back to Jeanne, it's exactly a month since she passed away. During this period, I've often been thinking about Jeanne. And I think about one thing about her. The fact that how predictable. You knew exactly where she would be sitting. You knew what she would be wearing, because she always wore a skirt and a blouse. And the only difference was, in winter she wore warmer clothes, in summer she wore lots of warm. That photograph must have been taken in summer. In repose, Jeanne's face was not a smiling one, as we make out. Not easy to tease a smile out from her, the camera, in front of the camera. But when she smiled, her smile transformed her face. That's why so many people talk about the warmth and the smile. It was not always visible, it was not on show. And that is why when her warmth radiated, it made such an impression on one. Jeanne's work profile. Everybody's talking about files, about work, about her being a one-woman show. And it is true that she laid down a certain level of efficiency, which I think the Loreto College office still carries on. I mean, we make certain demands of the office always responds, and I think Jeanne laid the spade for that. There's also another thing about Jeanne, and that is, although she could be very gentle, she didn't raise her voice, unflappable, she could be very firm. So, in many of what the students have said, when they first saw her, they were afraid of her, and then they learned that she was so gentle, that her heart was worse than her mind, and all that. The fact was that she knew how to be firm. Just as Jeanne points out, that no matter how many people were there, how nice, noisy, she was a very tiny person. Slender, I don't think she put on an ounce of weight throughout her life, but she was never faced. That's an important point. Now, when thinking about Jeanne, there's one special ability of Jeanne's which I have to mention. Although Mamta in her letter mentioned that, in her little note, mentioned that Jeanne did not call her Mamta, called her Geeta, that was a conscious choice. Because Jeanne never forgot a name. I think one thing very special about Jeanne was she remembered the names of all the students in past years of college. I remember in the last few years in college, some old students would come. Students from my department whose names, because I don't remember, nominally, I don't know if that's the right word, challenged. So I appreciate it even more that Jeanne never forgot them. Sometimes she would kind of hesitate and then she would come up with the right name. And I think that was part of how she made everybody feel special. And I think that is why when you think about Jeanne and the way she made you feel special, that kind of discipline, warmth and happiness. And on that note, I like to end thinking about Jeanne with a smile and hopefully, like Suchita that Jeanne is having a good time with patients.
Dr. Amita Nath.
Pray for the peace
made her own auntie take her under his care and look after her and give her all the bliss that she deserves. Most of us who are gathered here know Jeanne as like when we were students or when we were teaching in this college. But I had a special privilege. I was Jeanne's neighbor. This was in the late 60s and early 70s. In fact, throughout the 60s and 70s. At that time, Loudon Street and Park Street had these huge mansions, bungalow type houses with gardens. And our address was Loudon Street, but one side was Park Street. We had the monoplot. One side was Park Street and one side Loudon Street. And from my grandmother's room in my home, we could directly see the whole of Kolkata. In fact, at that time, I did not know Jeanne so well because she was quite a few years senior to me in school. But I knew Linda. Linda was a few years senior and she was a basketball champion, a real hero. And she was an extrovert and we used to talk to each other through the windows. Because our gate and their gate, it was quite far. We had to go around the whole block almost. But we could speak directly from the windows. And from time to time, I did see Jeanne, and she would just smile and not say a single word. But one day, she did speak, and it meant a lot to me. Actually, I completed my senior Cambridge Indian School Leaving Certificate in 1970, December. And my uncle and aunt had taken me for a holiday for about 2 months. And then when I came back, my mother said that Jeanne was looking for you. And so I opened the window and I said, and she said, where were you all this time? Don't you know that the college admission is open? So I said that, no, I always thought that, so school finishes in December and the college starts around more July. But she said that, no, Loreto College is different. And the admission tests are at the end of this week. So I said that, I'm not prepared and I've been in this holiday mood. I don't know what to do, and I was very nervous. She said, doesn't matter. You come over with your mark sheet and your certificate and read the principal. And over the admission for since you have been in the Loreto House School for so many years, and I've spoken to her about you. I didn't know that she would have it because we were not such great friends. And so I took my mark sheet and Sister Stella was the principal at that time. And I said, Sister, I didn't know I was on a holiday. And in those days we didn't have the mobile telephone. And it was really very difficult to be in touch with each other in those days. Sister Stella said, give me your mark sheet. And I showed her, and she said, you don't have to sit for the exam. Your marks are enough, you don't want. And I think it was mainly because of Jeanne, and I told her that thank you so much. She just smiled, and like she didn't even take any credit for the fact of whatever she had done. She said that no, it is because you're a good student, and I think the college also deserves you just as you deserve the college. And so I'm so grateful to her for this. As I said, that she hardly spoke. She was really an introvert. And if she smiled, that was more than enough. Actually, in their house, it was a 2-storied house. She lived with her parents in the first floor in the beginning. And Mr. DeLang lived on the ground floor. Then in 1970 they got married, and it was a quiet marriage, and we were not really invited. And in fact, in those days, we, as school children, walked to many places, but we saw them as bride and groom coming in through the garden and entering the house. And one day, my servant came and said, "One gentleman in that house is very thin." So I opened the window, and then I heard that Mr. DeLang was very ill. And somehow, maybe it was the wrong decision, but such times you don't know what to do. But Mr. DeLang had a cerebral stroke, and Jeanne felt very nervous to stay at the ground floor with her. And so Mr. DeLang went upstairs, and he died that night. And I remember it was really very, very sad. And I said, because Mr. DeLang was very friendly, very jovial, he would always wave out, and I still miss him. And well, after I left this college, I went to the university. Even while I was doing my MA, I used to come to consult the library over here. And every time I came and met Jeanne, and there she was, just a little smile, no more. I hardly ever saw her laugh, but with a smile meant so much. And she has meant so much to me. In fact, my history, my relationship with this college starts with her. Because if she hadn't told me, maybe I wouldn't have known that television example there, and I had to come. So I'm so grateful to Jeanne. I remember her with so much of love. May God keep her in absolute bliss. Thank you.
Karuna Holmes.
Good afternoon, everyone gathered. Today, we are all gathered here as one family to celebrate Jeanne. And Jeanne was a woman who left a profound impact on anyone who really knew her. Through her life of faith, compassion, and service, she touched countless hearts and brought comfort and joy wherever she went. As Alan rightly told me, Jeanne loved listening to the radio. So when she was at home, music was very much part of her life, especially 91.9 Friends FM radio. And then she would wait for Jimmy Tangley's Direct Lindsay. That was one of her favorites. Jeanne was very fond of cricket. Whether she watched the game live or whether she watched a replay of it, she loved her cricket. And as I've been told, she loved Tony and enjoyed all their children's stories. So she would make Alan cut out all the pictures from the newspapers, and she would make him stick it for her on her wall. And she knew everything about cricket and about the cricketers and about their children. I stand here today actually as past pupil of Loreto College. And I was getting a little worried when I was hearing everyone say so many things about Jeanne, because as students, I think we knew a different picture of Jeanne. I will take the stage now to say Jeanne had a look. And when we were out in the corridors, I think maybe making a little noise that was not required. Jeanne just came into the corridor and she looked at us. We all disappeared wherever we had to go and do whatever we had to do because of that look. And that smile that everyone spoke about, I don't think we ever saw it as a student. And I think that was good because Jeanne was very firm. And I remember an incident once I there, who was our principal. I'm sure as a student, I think it was easier to meet the principal than Jeanne, because we had to go past Jeanne. And she would ask us, what do you want? And then we would say nothing, because we didn't want to say anything at that point of time. And we just went to her. So I kept looking into the office, but Jeanne never went anywhere. That was another characteristic. She was always there. Somehow I managed, maybe there were a group of girls around her or something, I managed to go past Jeanne. And I went to Sister Claire and I gave the letter and whatever. But on the way back, now I had to pass Jeanne. So I was trying to look very occupied, but she said, don't think you've gone past me, I've seen you. And she knew all our names. Whether it was the surname or the name, Jeanne knew your name, and then you had it if she called you from the corridor, whatever you needed to do. But there was a side of Jeanne that one of my friends, she was a boarder, not in, I don't think we had boarding in Loreto College then, in one or another boarding where the food was terrible. So Jeanne used to carry biscuits and a sandwich for my friend. So I remember Jeanne, and like I was saying to her, and never coconut. She was very hard from the outside, stern, smart, no smile, stern look. But from the inside, she was a very gentle and a very, very good-natured person. I just want to read a line which we heard earlier this morning. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. A line which is so significant of our time. She understood that a life well lived is one spent in service to others. And as we reflect this afternoon on her absence for the past 1 month, we are confident that Jeanne's legacy of hard work and devotion will always remain a guiding light for all of us until we meet again. Rest in peace, dear Jeanne, and may she always watch over us always. Thank you.
Ma'am Nandini Dutta.
Part of college, I just did my college here, but my sisters are also leaders, I kept in touch, I kept in touch with you. I worked on Park Street for many years, and my going full time was also Jeanne's going full time, most days, 2 days a week, and then I told my friend, I really would have tea from the police station canteen by me. Not many people do, but this people did. The police canteen was open for hours. The college where I went. Jeanne just with me. The thing about Jeanne is, it's she managed to show one person with kindness. I came from a very small school in exclusive school in Loreto College, where I was not comfortable with many things. Moreover, my admission was on I don't know what basis the result wasn't out. I didn't have been early, and my result wasn't there to prove that I could do undergrad in CBU. So I was taken down basis of was called there, and he said, you just come to college. Doesn't matter what happens. I came, and she was very kind all the time. Shows that was no part of home. And she came to class to tell me, but not came. She actually came to class when my mother went on surgery. I knew I was there, just telling me about the surgery. But to say that the surgery went on
class. But the Ray was there to be in class, and she said, we have a thing. But this kind of thing is not common everywhere in the world. Another very kind thing she did for all geography of students was that when we were in first year, we had Thursday classes, practical classes. I think we had before that at 8 o'clock, and we had 10 to 12. And it was about there was no water, water was better. And we would drink. I mean, most days we had to that was hot because of the sun. And we were told Jeanne said, if you are very quiet, you can go to the platform and drink the platform veranda faucet. And we have to be very quiet. There's only one spot. This is so bad. There's no other spot. Only one spot. We have to be very quiet. And she allowed that. And I think this just before. So when you allowed to go through the step, you had a faucet running. You had a faucet running. And Thursdays and upstairs was good. And another thing which I remember as a picture frame, which is that there was a magazine at one time for the excursions. I believe it was DeLang. I don't know if anybody remembers that. She told us, take a photograph of the staircase. That was fine. Sister gave me permission. That took place. Ray was there. That took us fine. But between us and Lord, that was not good. And we couldn't go together enough guts to go up the staircase. And Jeanne eventually asked us, we didn't get cameras because of Jeanne's office. You read it every day, you don't really know what to say. So we told her about it. She said, okay, I will take you. And she took us. And while on the way, she said, you know something? Don't be scared. You'll never come out here. So I said, oh. I said, no, just be quiet. Take it and never be quiet. And then we took the smile. It was a beautiful program. The sun coming in from the window, the way after the sun coming in. And the smile on Jeanne's face, that three of us, two students, and another staff, actually pulled it through. The smile was glorious. I will never forget this smile I watched. And these are two memories, particularly. And one thing I'd like to mention here, though maybe mentioned, this is what we were expecting, is that Jeanne had a lunch brought from home every day. And we knew this. We knew this because the person who brought the lunch was John. Okay? And we waited for it. John Miss Jeanne Baba ka lunch aaya. And yes, Jeanne Baba ka lunch aaya means that they had yes. And then that meant that John would therefore be okay for us to get the instruments up and down John campus. So we're waiting for Jeanne's lunch to come. And if the lunch was late, this was kind of a terribly. And we would have carried the instruments down. So John was a very major part. So Jeanne's memory is very clear. She knew my sister was living there. She knew her mother, I don't know how. She knew her mother. Her mom would phone her or whatever it is. She would say, you have to go walking today, moving today. Yes, I know. Whatever it is. She knew everything about the family. I'll just end with words. Basically, what God is prayer. I don't think it makes sense. I think it was just speaking word. Java came, I know who came, for my own. There are many more ways I will mention. Let there be peace in your world. And service which we achieve, which is a significant point in the letter's education. Service is very important. Jeanne did it. Thank you.
across many continents on the online platform across the globe. It is heartening to see many familiar faces, friends, acquaintances, beloved family members of dear Jeanne, whose precious memories we hold close to our heart as we share our experiences with her when our paths crossed at some point of our life. For those who don't know me, I am Charlotte Simpson Davis, an ex-student of Loreto House, where I did my +2, and of Loreto College, my alma mater. I teach the courses that are part of education in Xavier's College. My association with Jeanne began in Loreto College across all 3 years of my graduation, 1991 to 1994, 35 years ago, and especially during the final year when I was elected as student president of the college. Our principal, Sister Claire McFarland, had nominated me as student president, and my dear friend Pearl Guest as the general secretary. After which we stood for the elections, and along with other elected members across various clubs and committees, formed the student council. As I pen down my thoughts and experiences, many precious memories come rushing through. Dear Jeanne held fort as secretary in the principal's office, and along with Marnie Lewis, who looked after the accounts section of the college, and Dorothy, who assisted in all the office work, formed part of a formidable team. A part of Jeanne's family lived in Park Circus, where my maternal home was and is located till this day, and we attended services at the Church of Christ the King, Park Circus. I do remember seeing Jeanne walking to college sometimes when my friend Lena and I, after having attended morning mass each day, would walk the entire way. It was a 4 to 5 kilometer stretch between our homes and Loreto College. I remember Jeanne so gentle, simple and lovely, wearing her trademark skirt and beautiful blouse to match, with a bag slung over her shoulder, walking with a relaxed pace, sauntering into the college, though with a single-minded focus of doing the day's work with a bang. This included being often engaged in answering student queries, informing students and faculty about various notifications from the principal, typing letters, events-related details, problem solving, troubleshooting, and sometimes when there were no other options available, dear Jeanne also set herself to the task of managing the maintenance work related to the college, but she always worked with others as a team. For us students, Jeanne came across as a one-point contact for all our problems, difficulties and challenges. Our rock of Gibraltar. Jeanne always interacted with us with kindness. I do not ever remember Jeanne getting annoyed or angry or even mildly irritated with us. Even if she did, we would not mind at all, because she always made us feel cared for, and she listened to us with the heart, not only with the ears. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I would be singing her eulogy, paying homage and paying my tribute to her after she has passed on. Both Pearl and myself and our entire student council, Olivia and others out here, were truly fortunate that we had Jeanne present amongst us during our college days in particular. She was our go-to person for so many needs that it is difficult to spell it out with clarity. Jeanne had a stern demeanor, but a sunshine smile, many of you have mentioned, and a heart of gold. My dear friend Pearl was very witty and humorous. She would often crack some really hilarious jokes, which eased the tension and made difficult jobs easy. And Jeanne enjoyed the the undeniable fun and camaraderie too. Under the able guidance of our principal, Sister Claire, our guide and mentor, Pearl and myself and our student council, many of whom are present here today, organized a hand-in-hand project reaching out to the poor, needy and downtrodden, and in particular children with special needs, old people and orphans, which culminated in a 3-day event for the marginalized. The entire project was dependent on funds that we as young students needed to generate by mobilizing the same from the society.